Hi, in this video I'll show you how to mix and master a reggae song. First, I'll let you listen to the track, and then I'll show you the effects I use in the mixing process. Now let's move on to the drums. I'll show you what effects I used in the drum process. Now let's just have a listen to the drums first. Very simple reggae beat. I have both a kick bass and a drum bass, and on the kick bass I used an API 2500 compressor. Just having some gain reduction there on the threshold. This is the overheads EQ. I had a boost at 1300 and a high pass. In the kick EQ, I had a cut at 141, a boost at 62, and a boost at 1100, just at the punch. All of the drums are going through the API compressor and the HEQ. Always setting some high pass and low pass and mainly taking away some frequencies. In the first snare, I had a cut at 354 and a boost at 4200 just for that punch. Once again, the API compressor, just having some gain reduction of around -3. I automated the effects on the snare fill. Mainly a J37 flanger effect with some delay. Here's the automation. Now let's have a listen without the effect. And let's take away the reverbs. Sounds very dry. The reverb and the J37 tape, they just add more presence and make them wider. Now let's look at the cymbal. It's also automated with the J37 flanger and the reverbs as well. You can hear that effect at the end. Now let's listen to it without the effect. Now back on again. It just spreads out a bit more when it's automated at the end. Now let's move on to the bass. It's a bass guitar and it's going through an SSL Logic E channel. I had a boost at around 63, a cut at around 200, another cut at around 600, and I added some low pass and high pass filters. I used a compressor in this channel, played around with the threshold. I wanted to use some of it, but not too much. The bass is going through a guitar distortion send and a J37 tape send. Makes the bass more present. The bass was quite big anyway, so I just had to get rid of the frequencies that really bothered me. Now let's look at the electric guitars. There are 4 guitars. Electric guitar 1 is panned to the left, electric guitar 2 is panned to the right, electric guitar 3 is only played in certain parts, it's as a substitute of guitar 1 and 2. Electric guitar 4 is the effects guitar, the lead guitar, which has a lot of effects, mainly reverbs and delays and J37 tapes. Now let's have a listen to the electric guitars. Let's start with electric guitar 4. On the EQ, I have a high pass and cuts at around 490 and 500. CLA to compressor. A lot of reverbs, both pan to the left and right. Everything's automated, like the reverbs and the J37 flanger. The same effect that was used on the snares. Now let's have a listen without the J37 flanger effect. The J37 just adds a bit more space. Now let's have a listen without any effects. Much drier. The effects just add that presence and the width. Now let's move on to electric guitar 1 and 2. Pan to the left and the right to make it stereo. Now let's look at the EQ of guitar 1. A high pass, a cut at 290 and 490, and a cut in the top end. Going through a CLA to a compressor. Guitar 1 and 2 are going through the reverb delay, guitar distortion and J37 tape. Now let's have a listen to the guitars without any effects. Now let's turn the effects back on. You can hear the delay. I was listening to some old reggae records and I've heard a similar delay. It's just coming back at you in a very subtle way. Now let's have a listen to electric guitar 3. It's very similar to electric guitar 1 and 2, and it's only played in one part. I automated the reverb and the J37 flanger on it at the end when it's going back to electric guitar 1 and 2. Now let's move on to the organs and the piano. Let's play the organs with the effects on. Organ 1 is a stereo track and organ low is a mono track panned to the left. This is without the EQ. A lot of low end, which was very annoying, very harsh. You can clearly hear the difference. I wanted to leave that space for the bass, and the harsh frequencies were just destroying the song. I can hear the low end here. Yeah. I had to get rid of it. Now let's look at organ 1. With EQ on and off. Once again, the low end and is there, and how to get rid of it as well. Pianos. Pianos have a lot of effects on it, like the reverbs and delays. Piano as a solo, EQ off. You can hear how dry it is without the effects. The effects just give more presence and life to this sound. The pianos are going through a J37 tape, delay, reverb, 3 right, 2 left, and center. The volume's automated. This is piano 2. It's dry without the reverbs as well. On the EQ, I had a boost at around 4200, just to add some presence to the piano. You can clearly hear the difference. And the reverbs just give more life to it, just like in piano 1. Now let's move on to the vocal. There's Vox 1, Vox 2, Vox 3, Vox 4, Vox compiled, and a background vocal. On the background vocal, I added automation on the waveform. They are all panned. The lead vocal is in the center, and the others are panned to the left and the right to make them wider. And the background vocal is panned to the right a tiny bit. They are going through an API EQ, RVox for compression, DSR, and a multiband. Take it away, and you better run. Let's have a listen without any effects on. You're coming to take it away. Very dry. And you better run. The effects just give more presence to the whole track. The reverbs are automated, and the volumes on some tracks and the waveforms. With the reverb automation, I just wanted to give some more presence in certain parts of the track. Let's listen to Vox 1. Now effects off. And you better run. Has no presence. You coming to take it away. Effects back on. And you better clear difference. Run. On the EQ, I took out some low end and frequencies around 500 as well. Had some boost around 8K. Tiny bit of boost. On the RVox compression, just subtle compression and had to work on the gain. DSR to get the S's out, and some multiband compression to make the vocals stand out a bit more. You coming to take it. This is without any effects on. Take it away, and you better run. Now the reverb is back on. You coming to take it. Just so much wider. And you better run. Now let's listen to Vox 2. It's panned to the left. Effects off. Cuts out in the low ends as well. Vox 3, it's panned to the right. Vox 4, panned to the left. All the way to the left. And Vox 5, which is compiled, it's panned all the way to the right. It actually has a lot of reverb on it. Now let's look at the background vocals. Effects off. Now effects back on.
You coming to take it away.
All effects off.
And you better
You can hear how dry it is.
run. You coming to take it away. And you better run.
Effects back on.
You coming to take it away. And you better run.
Now let's listen to it with the whole song.
Coming to take it away. And you better run. Babylon I go come.
There's a big difference with the reverbs off.
You say the Babylon I come. Say the wicked man I run. Babylon I come. Say the wicked man I run. Say you better run. Say the Babylon I come. Babylon I come.
Now let's look at the effects. We have reverb 1, which is stereo, reverb 2 left, pan to the left, reverb 3 right, pan to the right, and a reverb 4, which is also stereo and it has a pitch on it. Delay, drum distortion, Vox delay, Vox distortion, guitar distortion, and J37 flanger tape, and a J37 tape, and a mix bus. I am using the Abbey Road plates reverbs for all reverbs and I have my own presets. Reverb 1 is very wet, has quite a bit of drive, no pre-delay, quite a bit of treble, no damper. Then we have the EQ, I took out the low end and some mids. Reverb 2 left has quite a bit of wetness, some pre-delay, no drive, and I'll work around on the treble. Quite a bit of damper. Reverb 3 right, very wet as well, more pre-delay, quite a tiny bit of drive, more treble and no damper. And reverb 4 is very wet, a lot of pre-delay, a lot of wetness, a lot of damper, quite a bit of treble, no drive. Delay 1, I am using the J37 delay. Tape delay has some saturation, some flutter and some wow. On the delay I added some high pass around 100. I don't want any frequencies below 100 to be affected by the delay. It's a feedback delay. And I use a 11 formula and 7/2 speed. Then I have the drum delay, also using the J37. This time using the 8/15 formula and 15 speed. It's also a feedback delay. No saturation this time and no flatter, no wow. And like I said, I changed the formula and the speed in here. Now let's look at the drum distortion, also using the J37, a lot of saturation, some wow, Now let's look at the vocal delay using AJ37. I added some high pass around 100 again. Some saturation, quite a bit of wow, and quite a bit of flatter. This is the voice distortion using AJ37 again. Added some saturation to it, quite a bit of it. No wow, no flatter. Guitar distortion, a lot of saturation, just like on the drums, a bit of wow, no flatter. We have the J37 flanger, quite a bit of wow. I used it on the snares and the guitars. It adds a nice effect, and I added a high pass. Then like everything is going through a J37 tape right here. Tiny bit of saturation on it. Add some character. It's a bit of wow, no flatter. And it's there's a high pass on it as well. And then I have the mix bus with the EQ and the compression on it. Now let's move on to mastering, and let's listen to the mastered version first.
Take it away. Oh no 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 yeah. Take it away.
Now let's listen to the unmastered version.
Take it away. Oh no 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 yeah. Take it away.
Now let's look at the effects used for mastering. Have the EQ compression. On the EQ I have a boost at 63, a cut at 159, a tiny bit of boost on 963, and a boost at 4100. This is for the pianos and the vocals. This is mainly for the vocals as well, and some guitars, electric guitar 1 and 2. Makes it stand out a bit more. On the compression, I look for about around -3 dB. On the attack, I use 10 this time. Sometimes I use 30, but this time it would make the song too wide. I felt like it made it glue together a bit more on 10. I added the ozone imager. Have 4 bands, the lows, the low mids, mids and highs. I didn't add any width to the bottom. I added quite a bit of width here. Makes the vocals and the instruments around it stand out a bit more. I added a J37 tape as well for some warmth. Added some saturation. You can see how much difference a formula can make. I felt like 811 was perfect for this. And a multi-band. Mainly worked on the vocals and the instruments around it. The guitars. Really wanted them to stick out in the mix. Added some compression to those. For the limiter I used Ozone Maximizer, ceiling at -03. You can hit the learn threshold for -14 LUFs. That way it automatically can figure out what the threshold should be for your sound to be -14 LUFs, which is perfect for Spotify and YouTube and other streaming services. Of course Apple Music is -16, but -14 should be fine. With the character and stereo independence, it's up to you to figure out what sounds best. I don't want to make it too stereo. I try to find the sweet spot, whatever I think sounds best.